Python allows us to assign various times to the same variable. In this example, you see that I assign 23, an integer, to this x, and then on the next couple of lines, I assign a string to it, and later on I assign a list to it. And Python doesn't care. And this kind of flexibility is nice of Python, but sometimes it's not really such a good idea, especially if you want some other people to be able to read your code and to understand. And if you have a variable name called x, well, that's not really useful either. But if you have a much better variable name that describes the content of that variable, then that name probably would indicate also sort of the type, whether it's going to be a string or a list of things. And if you change the content, that's going to be really, really confusing. But Python doesn't care. I'll show you another example. When you ask for input from the user, for example, from the command line, and you ask for an integer, and the user types in an integer, and you get it into a variable called num. But you really know that that variable contains a string. So by the types of Python, that's just a string. So you will still need to convert it into an integer. And what you do, you call the int function and convert that to an integer, and then you need to assign it to some variable. And you can also use a different variable name in these two cases, but why would you want to waste a variable name just to get the input from the user and then if you immediately convert it into an integer, so you'd probably assign back to the same variable name. And well, that's fine, but again, it might be confusing to some people. So you might want to check all your code base whether you have any of these issues. And luckily there is a tool called mypy that can do exactly that. So let's see how it works. If on the command line I run mypy, on the simple py, which was the first example, it will tell you that on line 5 you're assigning a string to a variable that originally was an integer. And on line 8 we are assigning a list of strings to that variable that was originally an integer. And if you check the exit code of this program, then you will see that it's 1, so indicating that something failed. So you can connect this to your CI system, and your CI system will tell you when something when you have such code in your code base. And the same would work with the other example that was called input.py. Here it will complain about the fact that there is a variable that was originally a string, and now we are assigning integer to it. So if such a thing is interesting to you, then check out the mypy project that can do this work for you.